Okay, greetings once again, guys, and welcome to another edition by iCampSA. In this edition, we're looking at question 2 of the 2025 June exam paper 2, which was written in KZN. And the topic which we are interested in is statistics. So let's go ahead and have a look at the question. So the question reads, a group of teenagers were surveyed on how many hours they spent using social media over a period of 7 days. The results are tabulated below. Okay. So the first question, 2.1, reads, how many teenagers were surveyed? So this should be a very simple question, guys, because all what we need to do is we just need to sum the number of learners here. So we can go ahead and find the total number of teenagers by simply adding the numbers. So if you look carefully, it will be 4 plus 5 plus 9 plus 13, then plus 18, then plus 11, then plus 7. So if you go ahead and punch this on your calculator, you'll see that the total is 67. Okay, so that becomes our total. Okay, so let's go and have a look at the next question now, which is 2.2. And for 2.2, we are required to find the modal class. Okay, so what I need you to remember is that whenever they are talking about the modal class, they're looking at the class that has the highest frequency. Okay, in this case, the highest frequency, we are looking at the number of learners. Okay, so if you observe carefully, it's going to be the class that has 18 here. And what is that? So that is that one. So essentially our answer becomes x must be greater or equal to 40 but less than 50. So that becomes the modal class, okay? Because that is the class where we have the most number of learners. Okay. So 2.4 or 2.3, we are required to complete, if you observe carefully, the cumulative frequency of the above table. Okay, so 2.3. So let's go ahead. What I'm going to do is to quickly redraw this table. So let's go ahead and populate. So if you observe carefully, between 0 and 10, the frequency we are supposed to have is 4, then we have a 5, and then 9, and then 13, then 18, and then 11, and then 7. So with cumulative frequency, what we do is the first entry, we take it as it is. Okay, so that becomes a 4. Now to get the next one, what we are going to do is you're going to take the 4 and the 5 and add them. Okay, then what you end up getting is a 9. Okay, then what you are going to do is you take the 9, you add it with what you see next. So that's going to be 9 plus 9. And what we end up getting is 18. Okay, and then what you are going to do next is to do 18 plus 13. So you have 18 plus 13, and if you observe carefully, that becomes 31. Okay, then you take the 31, you add it to the 18. You say 31 plus 18, and what you end up getting is 49. Okay, and then what follows next is you take the 49 to the 11, you just add, so it becomes 49 plus 11, which becomes 60. Okay, and then the last term, you take the 60, you go to the 7, you add it, so you have 60 plus 7, that becomes 67. Okay, so that becomes your cumulative frequency. Okay, so I hope that you do understand. So what they were looking for is essentially this portion here. Okay, so that's what they were looking for. So we're done. We can go and have a look at the next question where they require us to go and draw the cumulative. Sorry, they said we should draw the cumulative frequency curve, which is the Ogive curve, to represent what we have. So 2.5, what we are required to do is to go and draw the Ogive curve. So this we've done a lot of times, so it should be very simple. So what I'm going to do is to just go to the next page for convenience, and that is where we're going to do our drawing. Okay. So what I'm going to do is create some space, and yeah, let's see. Let's just erase this here. So what I need you to remember is that when you are drawing your curve, you focus on the upper bound. Okay, so we will do 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and 70. So let's go ahead and quickly put up our Cartesian plane. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the horizontal axis. So we're going to have a 10, 20, a 30, a 40, a 50, a 60, and 70. Okay, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and 70. Okay, and if you remember carefully, we need to label these x's properly, guys. And if you remember, this here speaks to the number of hours spent on social media. Okay, so what you should do is you should always make sure that you label your x's. So this would be the number of hours spent on social media. Okay, SM. So you would know what that means. Then on the vertical axis, we are going to have, if you think about carefully, our cumulative frequency. But now I need a scale. So I have a 4, a 9, a 18, and so on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try 5. So let's see if we try 5, how that goes. Okay, let's just push it up to 1. So if I say I have a 5, a 10, a 15, a 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Okay, so that doesn't look like it's gonna work unless, because I need to eventually get to 67. So unless I just take all of this to the next page, okay? And we just make our scale to be bigger. Right. So we can come here and then just make that to be bigger. So let me try again, see how it goes. So what we're going to have is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and 45, 50, 55, 60. Then I need up to 67. Okay, so we're at 60 there. So let's move up. So 60, that becomes 65. And the last part becomes 70. Okay, so let's put that up. So that is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70. Okay, and what you have here is our cumulative frequency, and that speaks to the number of learners. Okay, so with this now out of the way, let's go ahead and quickly plot our thingy. So at 10, you will see that we have a 4. Okay, so 4 is just below 5. So I'm just going to have a point here. So remember, this I'm not really drawing according to scale, okay, because I couldn't find the cumulative curve that you would be given in the exam, or that graph, or that graph paper. So at 20, we are at 9. So 9 is just below 10. Okay, so we're 20, so we're there. And then at 30, we're at 18. So 18 is just below 20. So something like somewhere here. Okay. And then we go to 40. 40 is at 31. So 31 is just above 30. Okay. So let's go up 40. Do we make a point somewhere here? Then at 50, we're at 49, and 49 is very close to 50. Okay, so just gonna have 49, then go up over 50, and that is where we have a point. And then at 60, we have 60. So there's our 60. And there's our 60. Okay. And then at 70, we have 67. So 67 is just below 70. So we have that line. Then at 70, we go up to that. Okay. Right. So that is what we have. So we can now just join the lines and wrap up. So we want to have that. Let me make them straight. We want to have that. Then that. And then that. Okay. So that is how my graph looks roughly. And remember, this is not according to scale, guys. So that is what we have. Okay. So what I would need you to do, go and finish up this pairing here. So essentially all what you do becomes your cumulative frequency for the number of learners. Okay. Go and finish that up. Now, the next one, they are saying use the cumulative frequency or the Ogive curve to estimate the number of teenagers from this group who spent on average between 2 and 4 hours per day. So how many are they who spend between 2 and 4 hours? Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go and look at the number of hours. So I'm going to need 2. Sorry. So they're saying we spent between 2 and 4 hours. Okay. So let's quickly think about this problem. So remember that this data which we are given here is over an interval of 7 days. Okay. But however, if we look at 2.6, okay, so this graph here which we have is for 2.5. Okay, so now we're looking at 2.6. So they're saying between 2 and 4 hours a day. Okay, now I need to ask myself, if they are spending this amount of time, what would have happened in 7 days time? So if you think carefully, it means in 7 days time, what we are going to have as the number of hours is it's going to be 2 times 7, that's going to be 14, and 7 times 4, that's going to be 28. Okay, so we want to figure out how many of these children would spend, or these learners would spend between 14 and 28 hours, in the 17 days. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and label here. So I'm going to try and figure out where is 14 hours. Okay. Now, if you look carefully, 14 hours would be somewhere in the middle here. And then we just go to that. Okay. So if you look carefully, your 14 hours, now, according to my scale here, one would argue and say you have a 6, maybe 7, 8, 9. So that would be, it looks like a 6, okay, because a 5 is here. So according to this, what we have there is a 6, okay? And this here is aligning with 14. Okay, so let's go and do the next one, where we need 28 hours. So 28 hours is very close to 30. So I would take it to be somewhere there. Okay. Then we move somewhere there. Okay. Now, if you observe carefully, let's move that to touch there. Move it up. Yeah. So if you observe carefully, one would argue and say, here we can maybe say we're at 16. Okay. So we can say we're at 16 there. And then here, that is here, we are at 28. So if you observe carefully, you have 16 and 6. So we can figure out that the total number of learners who spend an average time of between 2 and 4 hours per day, that is going to be that. So if you observe carefully, it means if we find the difference there, you will see that the difference will simply be, when we look at the number of learners, it will be 16 minus 6, which becomes about 10. Okay. So you have about 10 learners who spend that amount of time per day on social media. So we can go ahead and put up our answer. And what we are going to say is 10 learners spend, remember, this would be between 2 and 4 hours on social media per day. Okay, so that is how guys would have found this answer here. So remember, this is based on my graph. So you would have a graphing paper that is according to scale, so which means your answer might be slightly different and probably more accurate. So this is what I find according to the graph that I have here. So I hope that you guys understand the questions that we had to answer as part of the series, and I hope that this does make sense. Okay, so be on the look for another edition of question 3 of this 2025 June exam paper 2 from KZN. Cheers, guys.